I just planned 31 days of content in just 1 hour after being completely inconsistent for over a year. And if you're someone who's been struggling with content creation, what I'm about to show you is going to sound almost too good to be true. So here I was staring at my Instagram analytics, and y'all, it is so embarrassing. I'm talking OD embarrassing because my last post was 3 weeks ago. And before that, a month gap. And here I am supposed to be teaching people how to build a brand online while my own content strategy is basically non-existent. But the crazy part is I just sat down for just one focused hour and planned out 31 days of my content for the month of July. And I'm about to show you exactly how I did it, because if you're struggling with inconsistency like I was, this is gonna change the game for you. Trust me. But first, I gotta be real with you for a second and tell you the truth about my inconsistency. See, on Instagram, I've been inconsistent for over a year, and on YouTube, I have been sporadically posting for the past few months. And this is coming from somebody who was so serious about social media back in 2019 when I first started this business. I got to 10K followers in my first 5 months, and that's when people were shooting for 10K to get the swipe up, and my posts were reaching over 40K. So what the heck happened, and how did I go from posting 6 times a week and crushing it to whatever I want to call this mess of a inconsistent mess that I'm in right now? And see, here's what I figured out. And this hit me during one of my calls with my clients who happens to be launching a book, and she's transitioning from services to products. And she, just like me and you, have been stuck in her head about content for months. And she was literally frustrated, almost in tears, because she didn't know what to post. And I'm listening to her and I'm thinking, girl, I am literally giving you advice when my own content calendar is a disaster right now. How is this even possible? But that's when something clicked to me, right? Back in 2019, when I first left corporate America, I still had a corporate mindset. I was waking up at 5 a.m., treating content creation like it was a job, and using the same time management strategies and systems that I learned and implemented while I was in corporate America. I really had structure, I had discipline, and most importantly, I had a system. But somewhere along this entrepreneurship journey, I got comfortable with being my own boss. Well, technically, I got a boss, and that boss is G-O-D, okay? But what I really meant is I stopped treating content creation like the business and brand critical activity that it actually is. See, here's what I realized about inconsistency. It's not that we don't want to be consistent or that we don't have ideas. It's that we don't have the time to be creative when we need to be. So we sit down for our content planning day, spend 3 hours twiddling our thumbs and watching people walk by. Then we leave that coffee shop with maybe 5 ideas. We post those for the week, and then we're back at square one once next week hits. It's this constant cycle where we're always scrambling, always behind, and always feeling like we're failing at something that should be so simple. So that's when I went back and I analyzed what actually worked when I was consistent. What was I doing differently? And I started to notice this pattern in how I used to approach content creation. But I never actually thought about it systematically before, which is crazy because the first thing I realized is that I used to just dump everything out of my head. Like I'd sit down and I'd ask myself what random stuff happened this week or this month that stuck with me. Not polished thoughts, but messy, unfiltered moments. See, back in 2019, I literally wrote down conversations that I overheard, random quotes that hit different, even if they were from songs, and even weird thoughts that I had while in the shower. And I wasn't trying to make them content just yet. I was just getting everything out of my head and on paper, or on your phone. This is literally something that you can do in your notepad on a day-to-day basis where you are just dumping everything out of your head. See, fast forward to last week, I'm on the call with that same client, let's just call her Kay. And I walk her through this brain dump system, or this brain dump part of the system. And then I ask her, but what's the deeper message behind one of these random moments that you just shared with me? Like, if you had to imagine your ideal customer and you had only 30 seconds to tell them this story as your only example, and that's supposed to attract them and connect with them, what exactly would that message behind that be? And I watched her entire face change. See, she went from saying, I have nothing to say, to, oh my God, I got so much to say about this one thing. And she literally talked my ears off, like, I'm not even gonna lie, right? And that's when I realized that the second part of what I was doing naturally was I was always asking myself what the real lesson was behind the random stuff that I just dumped out. And from there, that's where the actual content idea emerges. Because once you have that deeper message, you've got to think about how you're going to package it into a full-fledged content piece. Like, is this going to be something that you share via your story? Is this going to be a story that you share on an Instagram reel? Is this a step-by-step carousel? Or is this something that you need to dive deeper in a long-form video that belongs on YouTube? That's the third piece. See, you don't want to just find the right message. You also got to figure out the best way to deliver it. And so what's funny is Kay voice noted me yesterday saying that she planned her entire month of July of content as well, using this exact process. And she actually made her very first post today after weeks of not showing up on Instagram. Let me show you exactly what this looks like in real time. Let me think about a random moment that happened in my life. Like when I went on my 3-year anniversary trip with my husband in April, and we took a private vintage car ride around Colombia. Not only that, but we got to visit Antigua, an island where I grew up. Now, I'm gonna brain dump everything that happened, right? Okay, I grew up on this island. We got a private car. It was fancy. We had a private driver. We were cute. We saw art, all the things. Now, let me brainstorm and think about what the deeper message could be for my audience. Well, I know that my audience struggles to take time off because they're working 9-to-5s, or if they're full-fledged in their business, they're scared that their business will fall apart if they took time off. When in reality, taking time off and going on vacation gives you a fresh perspective on life and fresh ideas for your brand. Now I go to step 3, which is build it. This could be a reel where I take a montage of clips from the trip and insert a voiceover about why CEOs need a break to refresh and recharge and realign with their brand. I can also make a carousel breaking down the business insights that I gained while I disconnected and share little bits and pieces of my trip via images or videos on the carousel as well. And bada bing, bada boom. That's one piece of content, and I pulled it from something that happened months ago. See, here's the true hack. Your inconsistency can actually be a blessing in a disguise, right? Because it's giving you an advantage. See, because let's say you've been inconsistent for 3 months. You now have the ability to brain dump what has happened in those 3 months of time that you never actually turned into content. You're literally sitting on a gold mine of material. And while brain dumping and using things that happen in your life may seem like something that only lifestyle creators can do, this is actually something that you can do as a CEO brand, which is a lifestyle creator, as an entrepreneur. This is also something that you can do as a product brand, because in reality, content is very UGC and lifestyle forward right now. So even if you have a product brand, we need to figure out how to create lifestyle oriented content for that specific product. Now, I just use this system to create 31 days of content for both Instagram and YouTube in one focused session. Was it exactly 1 hour? Maybe not. It was closer to 2.5 hours. But the point is, I was planning for 2 platforms and I did it in one focused session instead of weeks of scattered attempts. Now look, I can give you this system, but if you actually don't use it, nothing changes. So here's what I want you to do right now. First, identify 3 content buckets for your brand. If you don't know what content buckets are, they're different than content pillars. Pillars are more rigid, whereas content buckets are more fluid. So imagine you had a red bucket, a yellow bucket, and a blue bucket. If something was indigo, it would still go in the blue bucket. If something was a rose pink, it'd still go in the red bucket. With pillars, it has to be red, yellow, or blue, where with buckets, it could be any shade as long as it fits within the bucket. See, your buckets should align with your brand's purpose, mission, and values, aka your PMVs. Now, after you have your buckets, or your 3 buckets, second, I want you to set a timer for 20 minutes and brain dump everything that comes to mind for just one specific bucket. Don't edit, don't judge, just dump. Third, pick your top 3 brain dump items and brainstorm the deeper message for each one. If you do just that, you'll have more content ideas than you've ever had in months. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, Chanel, well, I don't know what my brand's purpose, mission, or values is, I honestly haven't even done the work to discover what my brand truly should look like, I have some brand building resources linked for you in my description. I have a brand blueprint, which is the perfect starting point for you if you're trying to grow your brand, but you realize that you have a couple of weak foundation areas that need fixing. And I also have the newest thing on the block, my 6-figure brand masterclass, which is perfect for you whether you're just starting or whether you're growing. It is over 2 hours plus bonus resources teaching you the major components behind every profitable brand that you know of, and yours can be one of them real soon if you get the masterclass. But here's the real question. Are you going to treat content creation like the brand and business critical activity that it is? Or are you going to keep on hoping that it magically gets easier someday? The choice is yours, and I will see you in the next video, Hustle Babe. Bye.